Okay, you've got something to do. You know you should do it. You know you need to do it. You may even know that you have to do it. And you know that once you do it, you're going to feel better and your life is going to be better because of it for whatever reason. So why do you keep putting it off? Why do you keep procrastinating? Today, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about all of the reasons why we procrastinate, which I'm pretty sure that you have a good idea why you procrastinate, but one of the reasons might actually surprise you. Then we're going to talk about the ways that we procrastinate. Again, some things that you're probably pretty familiar with, but the second reason for sure is going to surprise you. And then we're going to talk about what we can do. There are actually 4 different things that we can do to stop procrastinating so we can get on with our lives. Hi, my name is Caroline Angeles, and I am in the middle of a major life change, switch, transformation, reinvention, whatever you want to call it. I'm doing it. A couple of things happened to me in these last couple of years that kind of mixed up my life completely, making me start all over. And that's what I'm working on right now. In fact, my last video that I posted talked about my 260-day challenge, working towards getting things done by the end of the year. I have a list of the things that I'm working on to make sure that when I start 2026 next year, it is starting as a new person, having finally accomplished the things that I have always said that I'm going to accomplish. I'm doing it this year. I will link that video at the end of this one. One of the things that has gotten in the way of me doing this refresh, accomplishing these goals, is exactly what we're talking about today, and that is procrastination. I think it's really helpful for us to look a little bit closer into our behaviors and discover why are we procrastinating in the first place. And, I know that the big reason, the overarching reason, is because we don't want to do it. Whatever it is that we are putting off, it's because we don't want to do it. It is not pleasing to us. It is not fun. It is not enjoyable. So we're avoiding it because it's hard to do. I just realized that I have black fingers from working on dyeing my son's pants this morning. We realize that it is something that is hard. It's uncomfortable. Maybe it's something we haven't done before. So we are unfamiliar with it. We don't know how to do it. We have fears about how things might turn out. We might have fears of failing. We may have fears that this is not going to work out how we hope. And sometimes that fear overwhelms us and it kind of shuts us down so we don't even start. Another reason is, it may be a little bit surprising, is that we might actually be afraid of succeeding. I know that this sounds kind of weird, or maybe it completely resonates with you. I don't know. But for me, as I have dug into some of the issues that prevent me from getting things done, from moving on with my life, I've discovered that I have some negative core beliefs. And one of those negative core beliefs is that, like, I'm a failure. And so if I succeed, then that goes against my core belief that I'm a failure. And so my brain is always trying to pull me back to that belief. So succeeding doesn't fit into that. I hope that makes sense. So what I have to do is I have to work on that core belief. And we were going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute, of the things that we can do to stop procrastinating. That's kind of one of them. There are other beliefs that actually can stop us from doing something that would be beneficial in our lives. Maybe you have a belief that you can't do it, or you can't do it well. Maybe you have a belief that you don't deserve this success. Maybe you have a belief that you're not worthy of this thing working out for you. And again, those beliefs we're going to talk about in a minute. But that can be something that's really actually huge, that is stopping you from getting to doing what you are trying to do. The last one that I want to talk about is that a lot of us don't do things that we know that we need to do or would help us in our lives, is because we feel like we don't have enough time. Like, our lives are busy. We are running constantly, doing this and that, doing everything that is on our plates and trying to catch up with life, that we just don't have time. And I used to think that this was a real thing for me. I used to say, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. And then one day I actually stopped and I had to look at my life and I realized, you know what? Somehow I have fit in binge watching. My nephew, my great nephew, is just running across the floor upstairs. So if you hear pound, 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 that's what's happening. So I used to think that I didn't have time, but then I had to stop and realize, somehow I had time to binge watch a favorite TV show, like way back when I had this realization, I was binge watching Psych. I think there's like 7 seasons of Psych, and there's probably, I don't know, 20 episodes in each. So you do the math. It's a lot of time that I was spending sitting in front of the TV instead of getting done other things that I wanted to do, that I needed to do, that would help me in my life. Before I move on, I want to talk about, what is this procrastination actually costing you? Because there's a price for procrastination. One is, when you don't do the things that you know you need to do, you feel guilty. And worse than feeling guilty is that you may feel shame. You may feel really bad about yourself and get down on yourself for not doing the things that you know that you should be doing. Shame can lead into anxiety. It can lead to stress. It can lead to depression. Like, it's this whole big hairball of emotions that come out when we don't do the things that we know we need to be doing or we should be doing. Okay, so how is procrastination showing up in your life? What are the ways that we are showing that we're procrastinating? And the most obvious one is that we're just not doing it, right? Like, we're avoiding it. We are escaping. We're escaping by doom scrolling or watching what I talked about a second ago, binging TV shows. We are escaping by playing video games or having some hobby that we throw ourselves into that, is great to have a hobby. It's great to have an interest, but when it overtakes our life. And sometimes we use that as a way to avoid doing the other things that we need to do. For some reason, when we are avoiding things, when we're hiding from the things that we don't want to do, somehow we end up falling into adding on additional behaviors that we don't want either. Like, we run to addictions or habits or things that are kind of destructive to us. For me, it's like overeating. So if I'm binge watching and I'm fully escaping, then if I piggyback overeating, binge eating on top of that, then that gives me even more comfort from the stress that I'm feeling, from the guilt that I'm feeling, from not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So it's just it just grows and snowballs with some extra addictions or habits or destructive behaviors that kind of just combine into making it just a nightmare. One of the ways that we procrastinate actually is kind of surprising, because we think we're not procrastinating. We think we're being productive. What I'm talking about here is, like, let's say that you need to do your taxes. Not something enjoyable. It's not something you want to do. So instead, you decide that, oh, you know what? There's a closet that you have needed to organize for a really long time. So you go and organize the closet, or you organize the garage, or you do deep cleaning, spring cleaning, heavy cleaning, or we can get really involved in some portion of the thing that we're supposed to be doing. But we go on rabbit holes. Like, we'll take something that we're supposed to be doing, and then we beat it to death and dive so deep down in it, into a part of it that doesn't really need to be done. But somehow this is helping us to avoid the whole thing and actually getting the original thing done. Does that make sense? So, for example, I've been working on starting a business, and this rabbit hole thing and distractibility, which I'll mention in a second, has really been a problem for me. In starting a business, I'll write down, and here's a list of the things that I need to do. And it just seems like I start on the first thing, and then I find, oh my gosh, there's this other part that I didn't realize. And so I need to dig deeper on that. I start digging deeper on that. And then I find other things that are related to that I need to do. And I just keep going deeper, 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 deeper. I never even get this first one done, not to mention all of these other tasks that I have on the list to do. Distractibility is kind of attached to that. So I'll start working on this, and like I said, dig deeper, and then I find another thing, and I jump over to the other thing and another thing, and jump and jump and jump. Again, never really accomplishing this one. And instead of accomplishing the first things that I had on my list to do, now I've added a whole, 10, 15 extra things on there that maybe don't necessarily need to be done. I am avoiding getting that first thing done. So sometimes our procrastination actually looks like productivity, but it's actually not productively doing the thing that needs to be done. So all the problems that are going on, how you're avoiding it, what you're doing instead, that sometimes it looks like we're being productive and we're not. So how do we stop this? How do we stop this behavior? How do we keep ourselves from procrastinating? And how do we get on board with the thing that we need to do and get it done so that we can enjoy the fruits of our labors, right? We can either cross that thing off the list, something that we really didn't want to do, like taxes, or we are able to move forward with some goal that we've really wanted to forever, but we are tripping over ourselves. So the first thing, the number one thing, the most important thing that we have to do is we have to manage our minds. We have to deal with what is going on inside of us that is causing us to not want to do this thing, especially if it's something beneficial for us that is going to help us. Why are we stopping ourselves? So I kind of referred to before a little bit about we may have some negative core beliefs. We may have a belief like, I'm a failure, or I don't deserve this, or I'm not worthy of having this kind of success, or some kind of belief like that that is like really deeply rooted in kind of the core definition of who we are. And until we acknowledge that, until we deal with that, until we get that belief worked out and changed around, we're really not going to make any progress because our brains aren't going to let us make progress. We may make baby steps. We may make some little progress towards it, but eventually, or even right away, our brains are going to bring us back to that definition. They're going to cause us to stumble. They're going to cause us to self-sabotage, so that we come back to the definition. Now, I actually have a few videos that talk about core beliefs, the methods that I have been using to find out what those core beliefs are, and then how to address them and how to work on leveling them up and changing them into new beliefs that actually serve me. And I will link that playlist at the end of this video. So there's kind of two parts to that. Having a negative core belief, you need to address and you need to manage that. But even without one, you need to manage your thoughts. Either way, both scenarios mean that you need to manage your thoughts, that you have to get on top of your thoughts, which means that you need to change those thoughts to positive thinking, helpful thinking. And I'm not talking about, suck it up, buttercup, or grin and bear it, or just push through it, or fake it till you make it. I'm not talking about these catch-all phrases, this pseudo positivity. I'm talking about actually acknowledging the thought that you're having, feeling that feeling that's going along with that thought, and working through it. Let's say that you're feeling some fear, that one of the thoughts that you're having is, I'm afraid to do this because it's not going to work out. Or maybe you have some negative thought about this, like, I hate doing this. This is absolutely the worst thing ever. Like doing taxes, right? Who wants to do taxes? I don't know, I guess accountants, maybe somebody who was into that kind of stuff. So even when I get a benefit out of it, even when I may get a refund, doing taxes and dealing with all of that paperwork just kind of makes my brain hurt, right? So if I have a negative feeling about this, I'm afraid of doing it, or I hate doing it, whatever that negative feeling is, I need to deal with that feeling. I need to deal with that thought. When I was teaching middle school a long time ago, we had a situation come up in school where I don't even remember what it was exactly that happened, but somehow I think that we had missed a day of school. I mean, I lived in LA, so it wasn't a snow day, but there was some situation where we missed a day of school, and the kids, at first were really excited. All of us were excited because we thought we had a free day, but then we found out that we were going to have to make that day up, that was not a free day. It was coming back to us. And that gave the kids just a lot of anxiety and anger, and they were frustrated. And so there's all this grumbling going on. And when the news came through, it just stopped my class. I could not move through this emotion that was happening. So I just stopped. And I said, okay, clearly we're upset about the decision that's been made. We're not happy about this. And I feel like we just need to give ourselves a chance to express that. So I'm going to set the timer. We are going to, for 2 minutes, you're going to yell and scream. You're going to complain. You're going to gripe. I don't care what you need to do. Get all of your talking out. Get all of your emotions out. Get your feelings out about this. Just all the negative stuff, get it out. Starting now. And I set the timer, and 2 minutes went, the timer went off, and I said, okay, we're done. Now we're getting on to what we need to do. We need to get back to our lesson. And it was actually really, really amazing. Just giving space for those emotions, allowing them to feel something negative, allowing them to work through something negative, express it, feel it, deal with it. Then they were fine. The rest of the class was fine. We didn't even go back to the situation for the rest of the class period. And that's what we need to do when we have negative thoughts, when we have negative emotions. Don't just shove it down. Don't ignore it. Don't push it away and push through it. Feel it. Okay, you know what? This sucks that I have to do taxes. This isn't what I want to do. It's not fun, but I'm going to feel better when I get done. I spend a couple of minutes, I get the emotion out, and then I'm able to move on. Now is the time to add in the positivity. Now is the time to add in the encouragement. After I have allowed myself to feel the feels, to work through the emotions, now I can concentrate on what needs to be done, and I can get excited about getting something done and accomplished. The second thing that we have to do, we need to get organized. And the best way that I have found is to follow Stephen Covey's advice and to deal with first things first. But we can't deal with first things first if we don't even know what the things are. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to outline all the tasks that are ahead of us. Some things that we need to do are really simple and straightforward. Change a light bulb somewhere or clean the kitchen. We know the steps. We already have it. It's no big deal. Some things like starting my business or even doing taxes require steps. They require, for taxes, getting the paperwork in order, getting the receipts, getting whatever it is that I need in order for me to start doing the taxes, right? Starting my business, there's so many different tasks that need to be done. So I can't just sit down and say, okay, first things first, when I don't even know what's the first thing. I need to list out all of the things and then pick out a priority. I can pick out the first thing if it's big and it's chunky and it's going to take some time, just one priority that I'm setting aside a certain amount of time that I'm working on that one thing. If there are a few things that I can get done in my allotted time period, then I can pick 3. So 1 to 3 things that I'm focused on. The rest of the things on the list will come. They will get done in the next order. Another good thing that I can do when I'm getting organized, when I'm looking at that list of priorities, I can look at, there's some things I just don't want to deal with or I don't really have time with. And I can make a list, don't want to do, or it can wait. Call the list, it can wait. Call the list, it stuff I don't want to do, but I need to do. Whatever you want to call the list, you can add things to those lists as you go throughout your week and then set aside a certain day of the week or a certain day every 2 weeks, whatever your time frame is, that you are going to address the things on that list. Doing this and giving yourself space to not have to get everything done at once is very helpful. You know that you will address it when it is the time to address it. And another thing that I can do when I am getting organized is I can see if there's a way to combine things that need to get done. And, for me, this is kind of daily habit kinds of things that I can combine. Like, for example, can I listen to a podcast or catch up on a show that I have been missing while I am organizing something or while I am cleaning or doing the laundry or something? Is there something that I can combine? If I'm working on a goal of getting more fit and that's something that I've been putting off and procrastinating, going on walks, can I take the dog on a walk, get the dog exercise, and get myself exercise and listen to music or to a podcast or something else? So I'm combining some more enjoyable things and things that I need to do together to help get it all done. So the third thing that we need to do to stop procrastination is the most obvious, and that is just do it. You just have to do it. You have to do it. So when you have an allotted time, you know that in your schedule, this is what you've set aside for this thing, then you do it. But sometimes this can be really hard to convince yourself to do it, even when it's time and you see it's time and you set an alarm that it's time and you have a reminder that it's time and you know that it's time, but you're like, oh, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. So Mel Robbins has a technique. In fact, she's built a whole career around her 5-second rule. And that 5-second rule is, basically you start at 5 and you count down like you're blasting off, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you get to that 0, you launch, you get up, you go and do it. I have found that sometimes 5 seconds is not enough for me. Sometimes I need to have a 10-second rule. And sometimes I have needed to have a 1-minute or a 2-minute rule. I don't give myself too much time because I don't want to fall into continuing the procrastination, but sometimes just giving myself a little bit of time, like we talked about, to feel the feels, to get the anger, the frustration out of the way, or just to ready myself. And then at the end of 2 minutes, boom, I'm done, I'm up, I'm doing it. No more excuses. Another thing that you can do is just to set a time limit. So if it's something that's going to take a while, you can do it in chunks. You don't have to do it all at once. And I know that might be hard to wrap our brains around because sometimes I'm an all or nothing person. I'm either doing the whole thing or I'm not doing it at all. But I have found that if I say, okay, you know what? I can do this for 10 minutes. I can work on this for 10 minutes. If it's organizing something, maybe I'm organizing a desk instead of organizing the whole room, right? If I am doing my taxes, I'm setting a time limit on gathering all the things that I need. At the end of my 15, 20, 30 minutes of gathering things, whatever I haven't gathered, I write down real quick. What are the things that I'm still missing? Pick it up the next day. Pick it up the next time that I have my allotted time. Set a time limit. Now, what I have found when I have set a time limit is that usually just gets me started. And because I'm started, I'm into it. And it's actually not as painful as I thought it was going to be, or I had worked it up in my brain that it was going to be so horrific. And it's actually not. In fact, a lot of times I end up enjoying what I'm doing. And so just getting started was the big hump that I needed to get over. Once I get over the hump, I'm into it. I'm already here. I might as well keep going. Or, hey, this is not too bad. I'm going to keep going and finish it. So setting a time limit and doing the 5-second rule so that you're 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, launch yourself into it. Those are really excellent ways to just do it. The fourth thing that you can do to keep yourself from procrastinating and to keep yourself moving forward with the thing that you want to do is that you can reward yourself. Now, there's two kinds of rewards. We know there's instant gratification and then there's delayed gratification, and we all like the instant gratification. So I kind of built that instant gratification into a system that I use. I have little jars that I put beads into, and this might sound kind of silly, but every time I put a bead into my jar, when I have accomplished a task, it helps me to feel good. It helps me to feel accomplished. It's an instant gratification. See, I succeeded. I did something. I actually sell these beads. It's part of my business that I have. They're called refinements, and I will put a link in the description if you're interested in using that as part of your instant gratification. Or you can use other forms of instant gratification. I also came up with a checklist for my 260-day transformation that I'm checking off every single day, things that I am working to get done in order to make sure that those long-term goals happen. Built into the refinements jars and the beads is also delayed gratification or long-term rewards, where after putting a certain number of beads in, I make them into a bracelet that I can wear to remind myself of the success that I have had. But there are lots of ways to get that reward. I think the important part is that the instant gratification should be something short. It should be something that you can do right away. Little check mark, little bead in the jar, right? The long-term reward should be you can schedule it in. Like, say, for example, again, you're working on the taxes or you're organizing your office. You can say, okay, I'm going to work on this for an hour. And at the end of an hour, that's when I get to do some doom scrolling. I can watch one episode of my favorite show. Like, give yourself something that you're looking forward to. Give yourself that reward. And when you have something that you're looking forward to, then it's a little bit of an extra motivation. And you feel like, okay, not only do I have the satisfaction of, getting the thing done and crossing it off my list, or getting into the thing and get starting on it and feeling good about that, but I also, I got a little treat somehow. I got to do something that I've been wanting to do and I'm rewarding myself with this is where I remind my kids of the first things first principle, right? The leisure, the fun, that kind of stuff, it can't come first. We got to get done the stuff that we need to get done, and then we reward ourselves by having that leisure time. But we definitely need to make sure that we have that downtime, we have that rest and relaxation. That is also something really important. There is a book that is amazing, and I will put the link in the description. It's called Atomic Habits by James Clear, and you may already be familiar with it. It's incredible how he goes through all of the parts of what a habit is and how we can be successful with those habits. I highly recommend that book. I just want to reiterate what I was saying in the beginning. There are things that we need to do. There are things that we want to do. There are things that, would make our lives better. There are things that we have to do that we don't want to do and we can't really see a purpose for them, but they have to be done. No matter what the thing is, getting it done, having that satisfaction of accomplishing something, of succeeding, of moving forward in your life, of doing something that benefits you in some way, nothing can replace that. And that builds confidence. It's the opposite of all the things that we talked about before, where procrastination brought stress and anxiety, and it maybe brought depression, and it brought a whole bunch of negative feelings. Succeeding, getting that thing done, and actually accomplishing brings all of the positive emotions. It brings more self-esteem. It brings happiness and satisfaction, all of these good things that we want. The last thing that I want to leave you with is that you don't have to do these things alone, that you can have a little bit of extra help. And I know, this might be a task that you have to do on your own, but you can lean into your spiritual side and get guidance and help and support from your Father in heaven or whoever or whatever your higher power is. You can lean into that strength. You can rely on that to give the encouragement and the support and the inspiration and the motivation to do the thing that you're trying to do. I hope that these things that we've talked about today are beneficial to you. Please leave a like and a comment. What are you working on? What are the things that you've been procrastinating that you need to get to? Take care, and I'll see you soon.